There's a lot of different traps that we can come into. So some of them might be around jumping to conclusions, and it's actually not the case. That person's actually got something else going on in their world. There can be black and white thinking that it's got to be this or it's got to be that, whereas there's not. There's lots of other colours and shades.
You brought up this conversation around thinking traps, Beck. I have an idea, but can you explain that to me in a bit more detail?
Yeah, sure. So a thinking trap, essentially, I guess in psych it's called a cognitive distortion. So we have all these different thoughts that run through our mind, millions of them on a day-to-day basis, and many of them aren't even true. Like, it's just stuff that comes up in our head. And there's a lot of different traps that we can come into. So some of them might be around jumping to conclusions. So we might notice that somebody else is not quite themselves, and you think, oh, that person's not happy with me. And it's actually not the case. That person's actually got something else going on in their world, and it's got nothing to do with you whatsoever. There can be black and white thinking that it's got to be this or it's got to be that, whereas there's not. There's lots of other colours and shades in between. There's also different things where we can shoot on ourselves, and how many times do we do it? You want to be, and I know that my wife Sunny is notorious, but might be sitting outside having a cup of coffee, looking over at the garden, and she'll go, oh, I should get on the lawnmower. It's like, why? Can't we just enjoy the coffee? You know, we're constantly putting pressures, and often that shooting comes from a place of high achieving, always thinking you've got to do things, but it actually can become quite disempowering as well, because you're kind of often having this feeling of lack. There's also labelling, so we might call ourselves a loser, or I'm stupid, or I always do that, and they're not helpful towards our thinking. So there's some of the different thinking traps that we might get into. There's also catastrophizing, so it's making out, you know, sort of one little thing goes wrong, so it means that's it, the rest of the day is going to be over and done with. So it's one of it, I guess, is identifying what they are, and then, like we've spoken about before, sort of checking in, is that true? Is this really true? What's another way I can look at this? What else could be going on? And learning about those different thinking traps so that we can go, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. That's actually not true. That's not the case. Yeah,
I've got a mate that I ride with on Saturdays often, and I'll get into he calls it the Corey story. And he'll say to me as riding along, he's like, stop, give me 3 bits of evidence that what you're telling me is true in a court of law. And I'm like, so then I'll start giving him the evidence, and inevitably I roll back to the story, right? It's like, you're back at the story. And that's really interesting, right? Because we can, like with our neural pathways, like we do have super freeways that kind of run through our brains, but in order to create new pathways, we need to take a different action, right? And those questions, they empower me to think about things differently and to look at things differently. And that's the power of
divergent thinking. Yeah.
And that's the power of like having I was with the same psychologist for 4 years, and I was like, this is not working anymore. Like, we're just two friends having a conversation, but I'm not actually, my thinking's not changing.
Yep.
And yeah, so I shifted to a different psychologist. In 3 sessions, my life has exponentially changed, because she really challenges me to think differently and to see the world differently and to see situations differently, and has an ability to explain things in a way that is, to me, like, it's a gift.
Yeah.
To look at the world, look at my world through her lens, right?
Lens. Yeah.
So when we can look at our world through a different lens, it really gives us an opportunity to live differently.
Yeah, and challenge those well laid out thinking patterns that we have that have caused those really strong neural pathways in our brains, isn't it?
Yeah.